In going through the comments, I've noticed that a lot of you are asking about how to get published internationally, or maybe you are not based in the US but are wondering if you would be able to get published by an American publishing house. So today I want to talk all about the international book market and how the American publishing houses fit into it. The global publishing industry is actually very interconnected. So I'm going to talk today about how books make their ways overseas and make their way into different languages, and how you as an author, no matter where you're based, can get your book published in all these different places. Now, my discussion today is going to be based on the traditional publishing industry. So I'm talking about the big 5 major US publishing houses primarily. So this process definitely looks different if you are going through a hybrid or self-publishing process. So just wanted to put that out there from the beginning so you know where I'm coming from. If the book industry interests you at all and you are looking to publish a book, I recommend subscribing to my channel because I talk a lot about how to go about getting a book published, especially if you're interested in the traditional path. So first, I want to give a bit of an overview of the major publishing houses across the globe. So the big 5 publishing houses really dominate the market, especially when it comes to English language books distributed across the world. Now this is Penguin Random House, Macmillan, Simon & Schuster, Hachette, and HarperCollins. All 5 of these houses have offices based in the US, which are all headquartered in New York City, and also in the UK, which are all based in London. Typically, if you are a writer based in North America, you would have an agent who is based in the US and you would publish through one of those houses based in New York City. And if you were a writer somewhere in Europe or in the UK, you would likely go through the UK side of things and then work with a publishing house based in London. That means that the primary English language version of your book would either come out of the publishing house in New York and written in standard American English, or it would come out of the UK version of the publishing house and be written in British English. If you are based anywhere else in the world and you are publishing your book in English, then it could really go either way on if you go with a US house or a UK house. So it really just depends on your own situation. So now I want to talk a little bit about how a book gets published overseas once it has been accepted by a major publisher. Say you are planning to get your book published through one of the big 5 houses, either in the US or the UK, and you're interested in potentially also selling your book in foreign languages in other markets, so maybe in Japan or Croatia. How do you go about getting those international editions made? So first, you are going to have a conversation with your literary agent about if it is really feasible for your book to have that international appeal. In many cases, it very well might, especially if you're working in fiction that really translates across a bunch of different societies and cultures. So if the book does have some international appeal beyond its original market, the agent is then going to contemplate whether they want to sell those rights individually or if they want to wrap them up in your book deal with your primary publisher. If the agent decides to retain the international rights, that means they are taking on the project of going out to each of those individual markets and reaching out to publishing houses based in those local areas and seeing about signing a book deal based on each place individually. These are all sold separately from that primary book deal, which would be distributing the English language version of your book. So many agents have relationships with international publishing houses, or some agencies even have a dedicated foreign rights team whose entire job is to take the literary agent's clients' manuscripts and distribute them and sell them to the international markets. So this is a whole kind of sub-industry in and of itself. And it's really cool because when the agent takes on the project of selling the international rights individually, it can actually result in more deals for you, which means more money for both you and the agent. So say that your agent sells your book to Japan and Italy and Spain. What that means is that the individual publishing houses in Japan and Italy and Spain will buy the rights to translate your manuscript into the local language, and they will design a new cover, they will put in their own marketing efforts, and they will be the ones in charge of distributing the foreign edition of your book in their own market. And that means you would have separate book deals with each of those markets, likely with slightly different terms, but they would all come with their own advance sum, which is the money that you get paid up front for the sale of your book. Now, the other option, if the agent doesn't feel confident that they have the ability to go to each of those countries and sell the book individually, is for them to wrap up the sale of the foreign rights with your main publishing deal with your English language publisher. So say that you are signing with the US Penguin Random House, then Penguin Random House would likely offer you a little bit more money to have all of the foreign rights included, which means that then it's on Penguin Random House and their foreign rights team to sell the book to the foreign markets on their own. So your agent wouldn't be involved and you would likely not be as involved, but your publisher would then take it on themselves to sell as much of the foreign editions as they see fit. It's typically more lucrative for your agent to retain the foreign rights and make all of those individual book deals separately. And it can be really exciting and cool because sometimes maybe your book in its original publication doesn't sell as much as you expected, but it suddenly becomes a bestseller in Romania. And then you can say it's an international bestseller, which is really awesome. So foreign rights can be really lucrative and really cool. And it's also exciting to see how all the different markets retranslate your cover design and present your book differently based on what the readership there responds to. So if you get that opportunity to sell your foreign rights, definitely go for it. Another cool thing is that there are also international book fairs that happen where the local publishing houses will come and scout out the titles that are being published by the major US and UK publishers and kind of see what catalog of books they're putting out, and maybe if they want to pick up any of those titles as well to publish simultaneously or a little bit later in some cases in their own markets. So there's this whole kind of sub-industry of international book publishing that is really interesting and can actually make you a nice sum of money if you end up publishing traditionally. The bottom line is that publishing your book in more markets and more countries means it is reaching more readers and ultimately making you more at the end of the day. So the flip side of the international book publishing question is, do American publishing houses take on writers who are not based in the US? The answer is yes. The only real requirements for publishing via a major US publishing house is that your book is written in English and that it appeals to the American audience. Because again, that is going to be the main market that they are publishing for. There are plenty of writers who publish through the Big Five that are not living and not based in the US, so that shouldn't be a limitation for you. What you will need to do is make sure you find an agent who is the right match and who is willing to represent your book to those publishers. I hope this helped you understand the global publishing industry in a bit more depth, because it's something that we don't often think about or talk about, but it's really cool and interesting, especially if you get the chance to see your book published all across the world. I hope that you see what kinds of opportunities there are for you out there and that you feel more optimistic about your publishing journey. So let me know in the comments below if you would have any interest in publishing your book internationally and where you might like it to be published, as well as if you are maybe not based in the US but hoping to get your book published through a US publishing house. I'd love to hear where you're from and what you're working on. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the terms that go into a publishing contract, I recommend checking out my video on Book Deals 101. I talk a lot about the nitty-gritty of all of the different finances that go into a book deal, and I talk a little bit about foreign rights in that video as well. If you found this video helpful, it would mean a lot to me if you hit that like button so that YouTube knows that you liked it, and subscribe to my channel because I would love to have you around to talk all things book writing and publishing. Thanks so much for watching and happy writing.